Hi, gang. My name's Blake, and I'm coming to you from my own little private safe space, which is my car in my backyard, to start this project that I've been wanting to do for a little while, which is start a YouTube kind of explaining the things that I've been going through for the last few years. And I just turned 40 this year. I was diagnosed about 3 years ago with alcoholic liver disease and specifically cirrhosis. And I realized at the time that there wasn't really many people that I could, one, talk to who were going through the same things that I was about to have to start going through, or two, I couldn't find anything really useful on YouTube from people who were like me, like around my age, who were going through the same thing. And I don't know if it's because people don't really want to talk about it, or maybe don't know if they're to that point, which is totally understandable. But because when you know, you know, you know. So I wanted to start for that reason, and just kind of to explain to all of my friends and family kind of where all of this came from, like how this happened. I'm currently on the living donor liver transplant list, because that's the only way that I'm gonna get back to perfect health, or as close as I can be to perfect health. Um, but no one really knows the story of that. A couple of people do, but since the pandemic and me just not feeling up to it, I've kind of isolated myself from most of the people who were close to me at one time for the last several years. So I haven't had the chance to really tell everybody what's going on. But for the second reason was I happened to one day make a little comment on this Facebook um, food group question, just a random. They were asking like, what's the last alcohol that you drank that you knew you could never touch again? And I just made a small comment on just not being able to drink anything because I had cirrhosis and I was waiting on a transplant. And then I just left it at that. It was just a simple little comment. But it ended up like, I mean, this was months ago, but it ended up just gaining like all of these reactions and questions, like into the thousands, which is not a lot for, Facebook, really, for people who are used to that kind of thing. But this was just a random little comment that I had made, that had a lot of people were wishing me well and things like that. But there were a lot of people who were asking, like, how did you know that you had a problem? I think maybe I have a drinking problem. Like a lot were asking me that, and it was to the point where I was kind of like, okay, this is starting to get out of control. Like I was getting more notifications from that one comment that I made months ago, just out of nowhere, than on anything else. So I was like, okay, well, I can hide from these, like I can not see them, but there were people who were asking, real questions, and I kind of felt bad. So I kept replying to those people. But then, of course, I had like, the few trolls every now and then who were saying, oh, you're doing this just to get attention. And I'm like, okay, well, if I was doing this for attention, one, I would have made a bigger deal out of it and not done it on this food group page out of nowhere. But two, like, I mean, it's documented. There are, I like, I'm on the list. It's not, I mean, it's not just a thing that I'm saying. But what happened was, I guess those people maybe complained enough to Facebook where they went ahead and, I guess, I don't know if they took my comment off or hid it or whatever. But I stopped getting notifications for that. So, which is fine, because that's not what my intention was anyway. But it did get me to thinking that there are a lot of people who may be in the situation that I was in and currently in, which is not being able to find somebody to really talk to, or who you get a lot of people offering advice, like medical advice, um, prayer, things like these that, fine for what they are. The medical advice I could do without. That's what I have doctors for. And that's why I wanted to do this particular project, because what I needed is what I want to kind of create for someone else who might need that. And what I mean by that is not someone who's just going to offer me prayer, which, I mean, nothing against that whatsoever. And people have their best intentions in mind. And I don't want unsolicited medical advice at all. I mean, I have people telling me, well, you don't need a transplant, you just need to do this and this and this, and your liver will take care of itself, which is true to a point, but I'll get back to that later. But I mean, I have professionals who do that. But what I didn't have was someone who I knew or who was around my age, who was seeing the changes in their body and struggling with how to stop drinking, struggling with the reality, that I'm not invincible, or, that I'm not completely, I'm not protected from everything in the outside world like I think that maybe I am. Like that can actually happen to me, and you don't think about it until it does, and at that point, there was no one to talk to. And even now, whenever I look around YouTube, I see a lot of media websites or media accounts who like to tell people's story for them, or show pictures like, oh, this is so and so before when she was addicted, and now she's recovered, and here's her after. But no one was explaining the story as it happened. And that's what I really wanted, was someone who was just going to be real, tell me really what was going on. I mean, in the sense that if this is healthy, this is where I want to be, and this is what my numbers are, this is what my lab results are saying, and this is where I realistically am, well, then how do I actually, in real life, get from here to here? Like, that's all that I need to know. And what can I expect in between? And am I gonna die from this? Like, are there things that, warning signs that I should be looking out for? Or like, how did you particularly handle the situation? How did you stop drinking? How long did it take? Why were you able to? If you were, have you relapsed? Just things like this that people really want to know. So I decided that I wanted to do that, but I just didn't really know how to go about it. So at this point, I'm just like, I'm just gonna go sit in the car, and I'm gonna just hit record and see what happens. Because if there were people who were asking me that on just a random channel, then I know that there's got to be people, and I was one of them, and still am to a degree, who really want honest help. Like, they want honest answers to questions that they have without all of this other nonsense getting in the way. So that's why I wanted to start this. I think maybe the best way is to, I mean, I could talk all day about my story and what led me here, and the things that I've done, and what I regret and what I don't. And, like, I worked in the restaurant bar industry for most of my adult life. And toward the end, before all this started happening, I was going back and forth between teaching middle school and high school English. So I've been to college. I was a college graduate with honors. I went to graduate school. By every measure, I knew what I was doing was not the best for me, but I kept doing it anyway, because the reality was out there, and I could do what I want, was my mindset. But that was not the case. So whenever I say that am an alcoholic who's struggling with liver disease, like, I'm not saying it as, a lot of friends do, like, oh, I've drank 2 nights in a row, I'm such an alcoholic. Like, no. When you know that your body is going to give out, So they're 2 different things. So I've hit this stage, and like, I can't just listen to people joke about it and take that seriously for my life. And this also is not going to be something where I discourage people from drinking. It's nothing like that. I'm not gonna have this holier than thou approach, because drinking is perfectly legal. It's fun, it's fine in moderation, but there are things that lead to it getting out of control. If all of everything aligns perfectly, you can get out of control super early, like I did. How I'm gonna go about this, I think, is I will try to kind of tell my story and how all of this progressed, but a lot of this, I just would like comments and questions, and what do people want to know? I'll be as honest as I can. I'm never gonna, I can tell you what happened to me, how I personally dealt with these things, what my doctors have said, things like that, but I'm never going to give medical advice, because none of this makes me a doctor. But I just wanted to come to this channel as a one-on-one, real talk kind of honesty. So a lot of that is going to depend for me on the comments section and what people want to know and what I can do better. And again, I'm coming from my car. There's a lot going on in the house. There are children, and right now, not at the moment, but so we'll figure out how to work around all of that. But I just wanted to start this and get it out there and get going on it, and know that there are people who I can genuinely be helping. So I'm going to try to stick to posting at least one video, probably just one video. Maybe I'll post another more substantial one in the next several days, but right now I'm going to try to stick with just like one a week, and hopefully I can get some people to pay attention to this and start putting some questions in the comments and start following me, so we can get a dialogue going. Because just me telling you my story is helpful to an extent, but I want to know what it is that you're looking for, because even outside of this, like, I'm in the profession of helping people as a teacher. I'm looking to go into nonprofits next. Once I've had this transplant and I'm good, then I want to help youth with who are struggling with addictions, mental health, just having issues that kids have, just that young people have, but not necessarily just young people. This particular YouTube is going to be geared toward, older people who are going through this, but I mean, really, it's honestly for anyone. If you think it's helpful for you, maybe someone that you know. So I just want to know from you guys. I know that there are very few people, if any, watching just yet, but I'm confident that this can grow into something that can actually help people, and especially if we can get a dialogue going in the comments. And I'm open to criticism, and I'm open especially to help on how to get this YouTube working the right way, because I'm not, like, I've turned into one of those old people who couldn't get the time on the VCR to work. I know that there's a way, but I don't know how to do it. So, um, yeah, if anyone has any suggestions, I'm open to it. Otherwise, I am here just to help you guys, to answer questions for you, to tell you what I went through, and to get a little bit of moral support for myself. I'm hoping to have a transplant by the end of this year, would be ideal, but I'll get into the details as we go. There are so many details that I don't want to spend too much time just talking about my own story like that, because it could, I mean, take a long time. Yeah, please, if you are interested at all in this, if you think this might be something that's useful for you or someone you know, or if you're just interested in the topic itself, because I can tell you that since this has happened and all the information I've gotten from doctors and all the research I've done for myself, like actual research, not COVID research that people like to throw around these days, but it's really a fascinating subject, like just the liver process, the healing process, and the fact that it can regenerate, and that's what makes living donors so like an actual possibility now, and why it's becoming increasingly popular, because it's basically able, we'll get into the details later, but so please, if this is for you, for someone you know, if you're just interested in it, please like, subscribe, leave me some comments so I know where to go with this. And with that, I am going to try to figure out how to maybe get a little setup going. I don't know. This works for me. I enjoy sitting in my car just talking, but I realize that's not for everyone. So anyway, yeah, like, subscribe, please comment. That's the most important. But I want you to know whenever I'm posting things so that we can stay up to date on this, because I would also like to go through, as I'm going through the process of my transplant and the healing and all that, I want to be able to post on that too. So please, if you're interested, like, subscribe, leave me some comments, and I will talk to you next time.